Okay guys, you haven't seen these in a while because it took forever for us to get valves. I actually got the valves through my buddy in Canada, and we had a lot of trouble finding them. In fact, what we wound up getting were 208s and 1.625s. And then when we put them into the chamber, you know what, I have another 1.625. Let me grab that and put them into the seats and you can see it. Alright, I looked around for that valve. Sorry guys, I couldn't find it. But you'll be able to see this now. Okay, we got a 30 thousandths feeler gauge. That's about it. As far as I'm concerned, that's probably minimum we should run. You know, I did put bronze guide liners in this, so they're 11/32 stems. They're manly severe duty. Does that mean they're not going to move around a little bit? Well, they'll probably move around if these run as hard as I think they're going to run. If you don't think 30 thousandths is enough, you can see where our valve size is now, 1.598. It's just a hair under 1.6. It's not that big a deal for me to shrink that a little bit. I have plenty of seat material to do that. It's not a problem. The one good thing that came about shrinking the valve, which was a terrible job by the way, take a look at the margin. Okay, that margin measures right at 100 thousandths. That's nice. And when you see the flow curves, you'll see how that margin really helps us. So I think last time you guys saw these, I cut one port for 208 and I slapped 50-degree seats on them. And after, I don't know how many months of thinking about it, I converted these to 45-degree seats because I really wasn't thrilled with those curves. Now these are the flows you guys are going to see are the exact same ports. This port has not been changed a bit on the intake or the exhaust. The only thing that's been changed is our angles on the seats and the valves themselves. Alright, they were used right out of the box except for cutting down the exhaust. No back cut. You can see we've got a nice blue pattern around that. We've got a nice blue in the bowl. I think the last 50 was a little bit wider than that, but it didn't quite hit the chamber as low. Okay, and we got splatter all the way around. And I believe this looks very similar to last time we seen it. It looks pretty good actually. Okay, got a decent angle on that. Looks pretty good. The blue doesn't quite go all the way to the roof, but it's pretty good. I like it right where it is. A little splatter around the plug. I think that all looks good. You guys let me know if you think that's completely screwed up or not. Okay, the exhaust is exactly where you saw it last time. The only thing you can see is the top cut is a little bit wider because I shrank the seat a tiny bit. It was a little wide from the factory anyway. In fact, I don't even think I completely blended that around the bottom. And it's not polished. It's a textured surface. Okay, it's all textured. The short side did get a hand polish. The intake port has a fairly aggressive rough texture to it. You can see where I just took the blue off from the last test with a different burr. It's actually a pretty sharp burr. That's why it has such a contrast in colors. Besides, the port itself hasn't been touched in months. That's been since last time you guys saw it. Okay, the short side has had some work to it. It's not completely stock, but it's not that far off from stock because I wanted to keep it tall and I wanted as much mid-range as I could. It's going to be a street ride. It's going to be a really nasty street ride, but it's still going to be a street ride. So I need a fat lift curve. Fat is where it's at anyway. Everyone knows that. Okay, you can see this is still the same port we've been using. It's got the line at the very back of the bowl, paste ooze line. Let's see if I can see that floor. And you can see the floor. It's really only polished the very, very beginning of the short term. Okay, we'll take a look at the intake port from a little bit different angle. Let's see if I can move that light for you. Okay, you can get a pretty decent glimpse of that short side at this point. It has had some work done to it. It has been polished, but you can see at the very end there, looks like I didn't even polish the very end of it. So we could probably use a little more polish because you'll see on the flow curve where the short side loses it due to high speeds. Got to unpause it because I'm looking for the old flow sheet. Okay, sorry guys, no luck finding the old flow sheet. I actually looked up the 50-degree flows and I took pictures of them at lunchtime today, and of course they were on the phone I'm using, so I can't even show you them. But I did find the W5 ported by Brett Miller, and those were 205.516s, and they were done quite well. And why don't we just compare these two? Because a W5 is a nice head. Okay, yeah, our intake is a teeny bit bigger. Well, how does it look? Not bad. Ours tops out just a touch bit better at 600. He beats us at 700. At 300, we're almost exactly the same. The swirl curves. The W2 does have an interesting swirl curve. I don't remember it being fast at the lower lifts and then mellowing out at the higher lifts. And the W5 is pretty much dead, has a reversal, completely dead, and then goes off the short side and goes nuts. That reversal, sorry, I think I'd rather have the swirl curve on the left. You guys give me your input on that. And I am 99% sure that this flow curve is better than the 50 seat almost everywhere. And I think the 50 had a back cut. This doesn't have a back cut. I may not even put a back cut. We probably would gain some numbers up to probably 400,000s. But it's really not bad where it sits right now. As a matter of fact, on the page, the Brett Miller ported 2055's got a back cut. So we're doing almost exactly the same, in some spots better, in some spots a couple CFM worse, without a back cut. Interesting to think about. You guys give me your input on whether you think I should put a back cut on that. I know I have some other 208s laying around we can test. That might be worth doing. All right, let's take a look at our airspeeds. Okay, if we compare the Brett Miller W5 to our W2, our pinch is faster. Now, I don't remember how. Now, I marked his as 0.625. This, the W2 was at 0.6. Okay, so that's a little bit of a difference. The pinch is definitely faster on the W2. As far as the roof is faster on the W2. And we are faster everywhere on the short side. Not bad though. I mean, if you look, it's almost proportional. So I think that's probably a good sign. Now, I'm also willing to bet that the W5 has got a little bit bigger port. This port has not had a ton of metal taken out of it. We'll see it when we do the IOP program. Let's take a look at the exhaust. Okay, the Brett Miller exhaust is black, and we are blue. Okay, as far as the low lifts, it looks like we've got them on the low lifts. And at 0.25, we are doing what that head did stock. Okay, so Brett really has a handle on the high lift flows. He's got me beat by a decent margin. But as soon as we put a pipe on it, that margin closes up quite a bit. Okay, now that exhaust port had very little work done to it. Very little. In fact, all it really has is my radius and a cleanup more than anything else. Maybe I took a little bit of metal out of the outside wall for to even up the speeds a bit. Let's take a look at those. Okay, the Brett Miller numbers are up top. Our numbers are on the bottom. Let's take a look. Across the top, the W2 is a touch more even, but the W5 is faster in the corners. Take a step down. Pretty close. It's got a nice high speed in the center on the Brett Miller. I like the way he did that. Okay. And on the bottom, he's faster on the one side, but he's way slower. Well, not way slower, but slower on the other side. But he's kind of dead in the middle. So overall, mine's a little more even, but mine doesn't quite flow as much in the higher lifts. I beat him at the lower lifts, no problem, but I don't beat him at the higher lifts. All right, I almost forgot to show you this view of the exhaust port. It's got a nice short side, and it is polished about half an inch in. Okay. Take a look at that bowl. Let's get around this a little bit. All right, guys. So let me know if we need to do any more work to these. Remember, they're going to go into, Rob would like to do a 434 stroker with the tunnel ram. I have to do some more epoxy work to the tunnel ram, then I got to bolt them on these and see what we got. Let me know if I need to work on these anymore, guys. Thanks for hanging out. Have a good night.